Arlowe Wild and the Deep Sea by Johnny Wild. It was another warm, sunny summer's day in West Fargate, and Arlowe Wild and Granny Yai were on the beach. Arlowe Wild was wearing his favorite purple, flowery swimming shorts, and with so much time on the beach, his usual pinky white body was starting to get a little bit tanned, despite being covered from head to toe in a homemade sun protection cream that Granny Yai had made herself from a mixture of Greek herbs and sausage fat left over from breakfast that morning. Granny Yai was dressed more like a Victorian lady, with a full-length orange swimming costume that covered her right down below her knees. Her bright pink hair was neat and tidy, and her glasses were hanging down on a chain around her neck.
"Aren't you a bit warm in that gigantic suit?" said Arlowe, looking across at Granny Yai with his huge, dark eyes.
"Well, yes, to be honest, I am. I am completely boiling hot, but at least I'm not getting a sunburn and getting all fried up like a piglet in a pan. I think it's about time we went for a swim, and I taught you how to use your snorkel and mask. We'll see if we can see any of the wonderful fish that live in the sea around here."
Arlowe Wild couldn't contain his excitement and pulled on his goggles and snorkel and ran as fast as he could to jump in the sea, giggling all the way.
"Come on, Granny Yai, the water's lovely."
"I'll be there in a minute, Arlowe Wild. I can't run as fast as you can with all of this rucha on," said Granny Yai as she bumbled towards the water as she dragged her own goggles on.
As they both got into the water up to their middles, Granny Yai showed Arlowe Wild how to swim and breathe through his snorkel. Very quickly, he was diving under the water and coming up again, blowing the water out of the tube, making squishy giggle noises every time he came back up for air.
"Let's swim out and see if we can see some fish," said Arlowe Wild.
They swam out to the deeper water with Granny Yai's gigantic swimming costume floating around them and a small trail of bubbles trailing behind her. Soon they were surrounded by brightly colored fish swimming above and below them. There were thousands of them, and they were all different sizes, colors, and shapes, and seemed to be smiling at them as they swam around them. They splashed and giggled together in the balmy warm water, enjoying the smiling, colorful fish and the sunshine smiling down on their backs. Suddenly, from below them, a small whirlpool appeared and seemed to grow up towards them. It quickly became bigger and started to carry them round in a widening circle.
"What's happening, Granny Yai?"
said Arlowe Wild with a bit of panic rising in his voice.
"We seem to be caught in a vortex that's coming from the bottom of the sea. Hold your breath as it may suck us down."
Arlowe Wild took a huge deep breath and closed his eyes as the vortex pulled them both down in a circle of water that was getting faster and faster as it pulled them deeper under the sea. A huge column of light rose above them, and then, suddenly, it stopped. They plunged through the sandy seafloor, surrounded by very confused-looking fish, and fell through the air for a moment before landing on a giant slide. They whizzed down the slide, side by side, screaming with excitement and a tiny bit of nervousness.
"Don't worry, Arlowe Wild,"
said Granny Yai as she gripped his hand as they went around and around, up and down.
Finally, after a really big loop-the-loop slide, they landed flat on their bottoms in the middle of a gigantic crystal-topped cave that curved around them. The floor around them glittered with gold and diamonds glistening from every angle. A light shone down through the glass roof from one corner of the cave with a huge golden throne decorated with seashells lit up at its center. "Where are we, Granny Yai?" said Arlowe Wild nervously.
I think we must be in Poseidon's kingdom under the sea,
she replied with a nervous smile spreading across her face. And then a noise like thunder boomed across the crystal cave.
Who has dared to enter my kingdom?
Said the voice, making the crystal roof shake and disturb the water above, sending out ripples and waves that rolled away to the surface of the sea. "I am Arlowe Wild, and this is my Granny Yai," said Arlowe Wild as he stood up and bravely faced towards the deafening voice. The rumbling noise grew and grew, the ground shook, and all of the diamonds around the cave rattled together. Slowly, as they looked across, a gigantic man with a long white beard lowered himself down on the even bigger throne. He leaned down towards Arlowe Wild and said,
"Hello, Arlowe Wild. I was hoping you'd come to see me,"
said the huge man, dropping his voice to a more reasonable bellow.
"I heard all about you from your mummy Holly."
"But who are you, and where is my mummy Holly?" said Arlowe Wild, looking confused at the strange way the man spoke.
"My name is Poseidon, and I am the king of all the sea. Your mummy Holly is here. She often comes to see me."
And then, from behind the throne, walked Mummy Holly, wearing a long flowing dress of seaweed and sparkling with diamonds and shimmering with pearls. "Hello, Arlowe Wild. How lovely to see you and Granny Yai. Have you had a lovely time swimming in the sea and meeting my friends, the fishes?" "What are you doing here, Mummy Holly?" "Oh, Arlowe Wild, you know you never need to worry about me. I've been teaching Poseidon to speak our language. He can now speak almost perfect English. He's Greek, you know, and lived here under the sea since the beginning of time." Arlowe Wild and Granny Yai rushed over to Mummy Holly and gave her a great big hug. Mummy Holly, with a huge, welcoming smile, looked at Arlowe Wild and Granny Yai and said, "Well, the good news is, I've just baked some cherry scones. We were about to sit down and eat them with some seaweed tea. Why don't you sit down and join us and help Uncle Poseidon get even better at his English whilst we eat our yummy tea together?" And they did, and all had a lovely tea together and became best friends forevermore. The end.